The Sean Diddy Combs federal trial. Combs' ex-girlfriend, Cassie Ventura, she is one of Combs' many accusers, testifying as a central witness.
Is she ready?
Very ready. Full confident. Thank you.
Among other things, the singer is expected to address the 2016 video of Combs attacking her in a hotel.
They once called him a music mogul, a kingmaker, the ultimate hip-hop success story. But yesterday, as Cassie Ventura took the stand, that carefully built image began to crumble in real time. Diddy's face reportedly went pale as his ex-girlfriend recounted disturbing incidents so graphic and raw that even veteran courtroom reporters were left stunned. The man who once commanded an empire with unshakable confidence suddenly looked powerless, unable to hide his reactions as Cassie laid bare everything, and we mean everything, about what allegedly happened behind closed doors.
Rachel, she had on a brown dress, form-fitting, visibly pregnant, head held high, and did not make any eye contact with the defendant, with Sean Combs. He said that Sean Combs directed everything from what she had on, to the lighting in the room, to how she was supposed to interact with the person that she was having sex with. And again, just to reiterate what is a freak-off, the freak-off essentially was something that Cassie said she learned about through Sean Combs about a year into their relationship. He described it as voyeurism, wanting to watch her have sex with someone else. And she said that she did it because she was 22, 21, she was young, she didn't know any better, and that she wanted to please Sean Combs.
Among other things, the singer is expected to address the 2016 video of Combs attacking her in a hotel when she was his girlfriend. Combs has pleaded not guilty. His attorneys argue the video is evidence of jealousy, not sex trafficking. And now for the first time, jurors are hearing what Cassie has to say about that and other aspects of their...
Sean Diddy Combs once walked through the music industry like he owned it, and in many ways, he did. From building Bad Boy Records from the ground up, to turning artists into superstars and expanding his empire into fashion, vodka, and media, Diddy was the blueprint for hip-hop success. On paper, he was the ultimate mogul, a visionary who turned music into a billion-dollar brand. But that flawless image, the one that graced magazine covers and red carpets, now stands in stark contrast to the disturbing reality laid out in court as Cassie Ventura took the stand. The man once seen as a polished professional, always in custom suits, always saying the right thing, was suddenly unrecognizable. Her testimony, filled with graphic and emotional allegations, shook the courtroom to its core. Reporters noted how Diddy arrived on day 2 looking confident and composed, flanked by high-powered attorneys, as if heading into a business meeting rather than a legal reckoning. But within 30 minutes of Cassie's testimony, that confidence began to unravel. The swagger faded, the calm cracked, and Diddy grew visibly restless, fidgeting with his tie, his cufflinks, then just his hands, as he scribbled frantic notes to his legal team so quickly one attorney had to tell him to slow down. Observers described him as pale, shaken, and repeatedly closing his eyes as if he couldn't bear to hear the words being spoken. One court reporter said it felt like watching someone realize they'd lost control of their own narrative for the first time in their life. And this was just the beginning. As Cassie continued, it became clear why Diddy was falling apart. The allegations weren't just personal. They had the potential to dismantle the very legacy he spent decades building. The man who always shaped the story was now facing one he couldn't control, edit, or escape.
She actually had said that she looked forward to the freak-off. Why did Cassie express looking forward to the said freak-off?
When the prosecution asked her, was there ever a time that you enjoyed the freak-off? This is when Cassie got choked up and she said, I did, but only because I got to spend one-on-one time with Combs, and I really did love him.
And that is speaking to the psychological abuse, in addition to the physical abuse that she potentially experienced.
Yeah, she's definitely laying out someone who was young, who was influenced by wanting to have this record career. She signed a 10-album deal with Bad Boy Entertainment, led by Sean Combs, and basically describes being enamored by Sean Combs, loving him, not knowing about certain things sexually, and him sort of telling her, teaching her about that. And what you hear is someone that was young and she even said, you know, I was young, I was naive, I didn't know any better. But she's really telling the story of someone who thought she was going to be with someone in this music industry that was going to help her career, that cared about her, but quickly learned after the freak-off that wasn't the case. And what I thought was also interesting is she said that after that first freak-off, she said she felt dirty. She didn't want to do it. And when she brought up the idea of having a conversation about the freak-off in an email, which the jurors saw, she said she backpedaled in the email because Combs responded by saying, I know, you don't want to do it. And she said, oh no, well, it's not that. But that was the beginning. That was in 2010, where she brings up in an email that she wanted to have a conversation about this. And in her words, she didn't want to do it, but she felt like she had to do it.
Well, Diane, prosecutors have wasted no time getting right into the alleged abuse that Cassie Ventura says she endured for years. Ventura telling jurors, quote, he would bash my head, knock me over, drag me, kick me, stomp me in the head when I was down. She also got into the nature of those so-called freak-offs, saying that they involved hiring an escort and they performed under the direction of Combs, saying that they happened so frequently it eventually became a job for her to set them up. Ventura said she did not feel she had much of a choice but to participate, that she feared that Combs would retaliate or potentially blackmail her if she did not. And she's had at times to she's taken deep breaths, pausing her testimony, Combs appearing to be listening pretty passively with his hand.
When Cassie Ventura took the stand, you could hear a pin drop. Everyone knew this moment was coming, but no one, not even Diddy's legal team, was prepared for what she was about to say. After years of silence, Cassie finally broke it, and she didn't hold back. She began quietly, almost disarmingly, recounting how she met Diddy at 19, a towering figure in the music world, while she was a young model chasing a dream. The power imbalance was immediate, and according to Cassie, Diddy knew exactly how to exploit it. Her story unfolded slowly, like a horror film you couldn't look away from. First came the control. She claimed he demanded constant updates on her location, even showing up unannounced when she was with friends. Then came the manipulation of her career, threats to shelve her music and sabotage collaborations if she didn't comply. One of the most chilling revelations, she alleged he installed tracking software on her phone, calling within minutes of her arriving anywhere, always knowing where she was. She said he isolated her, cut her off from friends and support systems. The courtroom was tense. The judge had to call for order 3 times as Diddy visibly reacted, shaking his head, whispering to his lawyers, making faces the jury couldn't ignore. Each time the judge warned him, he'd collect himself only to unravel again minutes later. Then came the moment that changed everything. Cassie handed her phone to her attorney, who projected text messages and emails onto the courtroom. Screen. Diddy's face reportedly turned to shock. He clearly hadn't known she kept the receipts. The messages showed alleged apologies for violent outbursts, threats against her career, and contradictions to statements made by his team. But that was only the beginning. Cassie went on to describe brutal physical abuse, being thrown against walls, pushed downstairs, and most horrifyingly, choked until she nearly lost consciousness. Jurors visibly reacted. One woman wiped away tears. Another man couldn't meet Diddy's gaze. Even seasoned courtroom reporters admitted they weren't prepared for the raw intensity of her testimony. And all of this, Cassie revealed, was just the lead-up to the hotel incident, the part no one saw coming.
With Diddy. Some of those details we've seen in prior lawsuits, but to hear her on the stand actually giving those details, reliving those moments herself. Also, you have to remember, she's very pregnant right now. So I'm gonna be curious to see how long she makes it on the stand, how she's emotionally able to weather all of these questions. And what's going to be interesting to watch is, you know, the defense from the very start in their opening statement said that she chose to be there. So I'm going to be curious to see how she responds to questions about, was this her choice or did she feel like she had to do all of this?
I think what made Cassie emotional is having to describe the details of the freak-off and why she did it. When she talked about wanting to do it to please Sean Combs, that's when she broke down. Up until that point, she had just been answering the questions. She's a little soft-spoken at times, but that's when she got emotional. When she had to answer the question about if she enjoyed it, that's when she broke down, because she said, I enjoyed being with Sean Combs. And she says, I did it because it made him happy.
What did the expressions of the jurors look like?
The jurors are laser focused on what Cassie has to say. And that's to be expected, right? Because she is the person who will likely be on the stand, according to attorneys, for 2, maybe 3 days. She's the one that was in the relationship with Sean Combs for over 10 years. So she's got a lot to say, and she's just getting started.
Just how important is Cassie's testimony to the prosecution?
I think it really connects the dots, Rachel. When you look at that initial indictment and what's being alleged, she really is the person that has probably the most information about this idea that the prosecution says, which is creating a criminal enterprise for Sean Combs' sexual desires. Something else that the jurors saw today that sort of connects it back to this alleged criminal enterprise are 7 photos of people that were very close to Sean Combs, one even his former chief of staff. And these were all people that Cassie Ventura was able to name and explain the function in terms of what they did: security, driver, chief of staff, someone that handled financials. So it's showing that she knew some of these people, again, because she was with him, around him.
Thought I was going to die that night, Cassie whispered from the stand, a chilling statement that silenced the courtroom. She was talking about a night at the Four Seasons Hotel, an incident that had never made it to the press, blogs, or tabloids. She said she kept it hidden, out of fear for her career, her safety, and the belief that no one would take her word over someone as powerful as Diddy. But now, on the witness stand, she held nothing back. What began as a typical reportedly spiraled into a nightmare. She described how Diddy's demeanor shifted after seeing her talking to another executive, how he allegedly grabbed her arm hard enough to leave bruises, whispering threats in her ear while still smiling in front of others. Then came the most harrowing moment. She claimed he dragged her through the hotel lobby toward the elevators as she cried and resisted, causing enough of a scene that security intervened, only to step aside when Diddy assured them everything was fine. They believed him, she said. Then her lawyer presented photos taken the next morning. Blurry, unfiltered images showing a split lip, bruises, and red marks around her neck, all snapped in a hotel bathroom mirror. I took them in case no one believed me, she said. Diddy's legal team scrambled to suppress the evidence, calling the photos unauthenticated and irrelevant. But the judge overruled every objection. When the images were displayed, the jury's reaction spoke volumes. One juror covered her mouth. Another looked away. A third took shaky notes with trembling hands. Then came Cassie's account of Diddy allegedly hurling a champagne bottle that missed her by inches, destroying the room in a fit of rage, punching a hole through the bathroom door, and holding her against her will for 48 hours, confiscating her phone and threatening her if she tried to get help. As her testimony ended, all eyes turned to Diddy. His stunned, pale expression in that moment may well define the entire trial.
Going to say is that this wasn't blackmail, this was not coercion, this was consensual. We know that Cassie started out with Sean Combs as an early person, with someone who is trying to get her career started, and he was going to help her. That's what the defense is going to say, that she was starting out and wanted someone to support her. They did their first record deal together. That's something I think the defense is going to focus on, and had it not been for Sean Combs, she wouldn't be where she is right now. Prosecution obviously is saying he was in control. It may have started out as a consensual. It may have started out with her being excited about seeing him, but ultimately he took control of that relationship. He took control of her career. This is their key witness, and she's on that stand trying to explain all of the charges that the prosecution wants to hit home with that jury.
No, there was a moment early on when Cassie mentioned Dallas Austin, who she called friend, who's a producer. So I don't know if that's someone that we're going to hear from. We know that there were pictures shown to prospective jurors that are well-known celebrities, you know, Kanye West, Kid Cudi, Lauren London. We don't know, though, how they fit yet into why they were even asked, do you know these people? Are you familiar with them?
So the prosecution is questioning Cassie right now, still questioning her.
The defense hasn't even got a chance to, I mean, that might change based on the timing, but, you know, because she's such a key witness, it's likely that she will be on that stand the rest of the day. We learned that Cassie referred to him as Pop Pop, and Sean Combs would refer to her as CC. The prosecution says, what does CC stand for? She said Cassie Combs.
What kind of witness is Cassie coming off as to the jurors?
I think naturally when you look at her visually, people see that she's pregnant and looking like she's due any day now. So they might, you know, have empathy, sympathy for her in that way, but we don't really know. We know that they've been instructed to be fair and impartial. As to what type of witness she's coming off as, she's describing someone that she was. Someone, she said, that was trying to figure out who she was at that time and who she was allowed to be. Now you're looking at somebody that's almost 40 years old, totally different person, but even in describing what was going on at her at that time, taking drugs, trying to please Sean Combs, she's really just sort of laying out the case for her not having a lot of control. So I think that's the takeaway. This is someone who is making it very clear that at that particular time in her life, she says she did not have any control really over what she wore, what she did, who she was having sex with. She's a different person now. But I think when she talks about those details and even reflecting on them for herself, as we saw today.
It was the moment no one in that courtroom would ever forget. The instant when Diddy, the man who built an empire on being untouchable, completely unraveled. The polished facade that had defined him for decades cracked, then shattered. Known for his composure and control, he now appeared shaken and small as Cassie's testimony reached its emotional and damning peak. Court reporters, seasoned from covering countless celebrity trials, said they'd never witnessed anything like it. Diddy visibly shrank in his chair, according to a source seated near his legal team. One of his lawyers gently placed a hand on his arm in an attempt to calm him, while another slipped him a note, reportedly reading, "*Stay calm," but nothing worked. When Cassie described a disturbing incident at his Hamptons home, Diddy suddenly slammed his hand on the table, prompting the judge to halt proceedings and sternly warn, "Mr. Combs, if you can't control yourself, I will have you removed from this courtroom." Throughout the testimony, Diddy repeatedly shook his head, mouthing "That's not true," as if forgetting that the jury and the world was watching. Then came the most explosive moment. Cassie alleged he had threatened her family if she ever spoke out. And then she played audio recordings, Diddy's voice unmistakable, making those very threats. That's when he lost it. Standing and shouting, "You know that's not how it happened." His lawyers physically pulled him back into his seat. It took 3 of them to restrain him. The judge called an immediate recess. When Diddy was let out, he looked like a man transformed, a far cry from the confident mogul who had walked in that morning. And then, the final bombshell. Cassie revealed she had even more evidence: texts, emails, photos, and messages from major industry figures, rappers, pop stars, producers, all expressing concern about Diddy's behavior. Among them were alleged apologies, bribes, and desperate promises from Diddy himself. By the end of the day, many of the people who had entered with him had quietly slipped away. His support had vanished. His empire, once seemingly unshakable, was crumbling in real time. Cassie didn't just tell her story, she may have rewritten the legacy of one of hip-hop's most powerful figures.